Hello, this is Craig Resnick coming to you from the 2023 ARC Advisory Group Orlando Forum. With me today is my special guest, Joe Gerstl, who's the Senior Director of Product Management of Smart Factory at GE Digital. How are you doing today, Joe?
Doing great, Craig. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for being here today and coming to the forum. You know, we was hearing a lot about cloud-based MES systems. What are some of the advantages of those?
Yeah, great question. So, 5 years ago, manufacturers would have told me, "You're crazy. I'm not putting my data in the cloud," right? But now so much has changed. First of all, it's just so much more secure, right? The hyperscalers, AWS, Azure, they have security down, and they can do it much better than our manufacturing folks, who really should focus on manufacturing instead of security. So that's a big difference. The other big difference, I think, is connectivity. And so the fact that, there used to be the old backhoe problem, right? I'm working on my factory, I'm making widgets, and somebody digs up the T1 line behind my factory, and now I'm out of business for a couple of days. Well, now you can have 5G ready to go at your fingertips. So that's another big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I know we always think how should a manufacturer decide as to, let's say, what's the best architecture for them? Are they thinking for cloud, on-prem, hybrid, right. What advice do you give?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, the thing about being on-prem is at least that if your connectivity goes down, you're not going to have a problem. But at the same time, it's changed so much that you can really rely on the cloud. But I think an on-prem situation, you might want to look at things like, security internally and, physical security around the plant and that sort of thing. Cloud is really, if you want to get up and going fast, the other thing about on-prem versus cloud is customers can buy an on-prem license and spend, let's just say, $1 million. That takes a lot of cash, and you have to capitalize that over time. Whereas a software as a service offering on the cloud, you can spend a third of that and save all that cash for your shareholders, which is a big deal in today's era where shareholders are looking for all that free cash on the books. So that's another big benefit.
Oh yeah, I mean, what do you consider, let's say, some of the key factors to considering really just choosing any MES system?
Yeah, great question. Well, you want to look for something that's using modern technology that can scale and can be highly available out of the box. Another thing that's important is the composability factor. So like for an MES, in our case, we have about 80% of the MES there, ready to go. And then there's another 20 that you can build using our no-code development environment. And others are coming along to pick up the mantle in that area too. But we're really starting out, and we're kind of pretty new in this environment, or pretty fresh in terms of other vendors. And so we're able to bring this to scale to our customers very quickly and allow them to fill in the gaps that they need to fill in.
One thing we hear a lot is, from small and medium manufacturers, size manufacturers, I should say, is how do they get started with MES?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think another advantage to being on the cloud, especially software as a service, is that you get the ability to start very quickly, right? You can start up and you can start with something small. So it's not a point solution, right? You can start with something that's, say, efficiency, and you start to gain efficiencies, you start to reduce waste, reduce downtime, be more available, be more productive, and get going in that area. And it doesn't take a lot of interfacing with ERP or other things like that. It's very easy to get going for a small manufacturer. And then they can add additional capabilities over time, right? Quality, production, genealogy, all that additional richness that you get from an MES.
Yeah, I know one of the challenges that we always see is, you go to these companies, they have several MES systems, varies from plant to plant sometimes. Right. What are the benefits of having a single MES across the entire enterprise?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that question, because what we've done with the GE Digital MES is we've actually taken a very good process MES that has been doing it for 25 years. And then we worked with our sister company, GE Aerospace, and we built out discrete capability. And so now you actually have a single MES that can do process and discrete. And we've found this market that exists that's kind of a mixed mode manufacturing market, such that they have process requirements and they have discrete requirements. I'll give you an example, right? GE Aerospace makes carbon fiber parts for their aircraft engines. Carbon fiber is actually a fiber. It starts as a spool of thread, and it's about a length of $1 and about the width of a quarter, and they put 8 together and they weave them together to make carbon fiber. and then they put that on a big sheet of carbon fiber, and they'll cut a fan blade out of it for a jet engine, et cetera, or whatever it might be. And then they actually have genealogy all the way from that fan blade number 7, all the way back to the 8 spools of thread that made that fan blade. That's really powerful.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now, if you had to say which is best, I mean, I don't know if it's always an either or, but an MES platform where a company can build out what they need, well, say a full-blown out-of-the-box MES, what would you say?
Yeah, you need a mixture of both, really. That's again where we have a philosophy of here's 80% of what you need, and we know we're never going to cover 100%. Nobody is, right? But you can take this capability that we have and then use the composability components to build up the rest of the special things that you need. And some people do need special things, and they may have other systems they integrate with that they want to keep. For example, perhaps they have their own non-conformant system versus the one that's out of the box. They can integrate that in with the system and have the operator looking at a single screen, a single pane of glass, and still interface with the older systems as well as the new systems in one place.
Yeah. And why is it important for a manufacturer to have no code, low code, or composable MES solution?
Yeah. Well, if you start out that way, if it's full no code composable, hey, the sky's the limit. You do whatever you want.
Right.
At the same time, you can do whatever you want,
Right?
Which can be dangerous, right? So the starting out with purely no code, low code, and starting from there. You can go a long ways, but you have to think about capabilities that you need, right? And having to build all that, but also think about maintenance down the road. This is kind of like the Excel of the old days, right? We used to joke that Excel was our biggest competitor in MES, right? Because you could do so much with it.
Sure.
But or the Access of the old world. Well, now you have these no code, low code environments, and you can do so much with it, and they're rich. But at the same time, the maintenance of that. Remember maintaining an Excel spreadsheet that Bob made 10 years ago? It's very hard to do. And when you end up with that same kind of thing in a purely no-code environment, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially when Bob retires and then
Bob's gone.
The Gen Z worker comes in and now has to figure out Bob's method of madness, I should say.
That's right, exactly.
It was great having you, Joe. Thanks so much for answering those questions, and thanks so much for being at the ARC Forum today.
Yeah, you bet. Great forum. Great having a great time with customers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Craig Resnick coming to you from the 2023 ARC Advisory Group Orlando Forum. Thanks so much. Have a great day.